let's look at what we worked on yesterday. Yesterday we learned how to factor. What do I need to do on letter A? What's the first thing I have to think about? Any? Good. Find the greatest common factor of 7 and 35. So that number would be, Bobby? 7. Good. So I'm going to pull out a 7. Remember, this is where I talked about it was like Jeopardy. I'm giving you the answer. You kind of have to come up with the question. Okay? So 7 times what gets you to 7C? Nick? No, not to 7C.
Oh.
No, because 7 times 7 would be 49. How about just C? Because 7 times C would be 7C. And we're going to keep the subtraction. Now, Nick, 7 to what gets me to 35? That's the 5. Good. There you go. So that's what I should have. Okay? All right, next one. What's the greatest common factor between 8B and 72? Shelby? 8. So I pull out an 8. 8 times what gets me to 8B? B. And then 8 times what gets me to 72? 9. I keep the plus sign. I write plus 9. Done. Okay, next one has 3. We're going to learn today. This is called 3 terms. Okay, so here's a term, here's a term, here's a term. What goes into 54, 9, and 27, Gavin? 9 goes into all of them. So 9 times what gets you to 54F? 6F, right? Okay, I keep the subtraction sign. 9 times what gets me to 9G? G. Keep the plus sign. 9 times what gets me to 27H? 3 and an H. And that is it. That is factoring. That is one small piece of factoring that you're going to learn how to do. There's so much more to factoring. That's a huge thing you'll do in the second part of Algebra 1. All right, number 2, combine the like terms. So then we watched a really silly video about algebra babies, okay? And we said in order for 2 adults to come together, they had to have the same terms. And it was very, very silly, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is do same, change, change. So that way I know that I can put those 2 ends together. Love is in the air.
I didn't know. I was gonna ask how you did the subtraction sign, but then I realized.
Then you remembered. Yeah. Very good. Okay, Brandon. Oh, be careful. Negative 30n, right? Negative 30n. And I always have kids go, I thought 2 negatives made a positive. Not when you're adding. That's only when you're multiplying, right? So that's I owe you 14, and I owe you 16. I owe you a total of 30. Shelby. If it's subtracted negative, we do the smiley face. Okay. All right, I'm going to skip the middle one for a second, and I'm going to go to this one. So what is negative 9k plus 8k? Negative k. Very good. Now, if some of you put this, that is mathematically the same thing. However, I'm not sure digits is going to take that 1 in there. So take the 1 out and just put in the negative k. All right, now, here's the next 2, distributive property. Okay, so remember distributive property, this was the silly video we watched with the king's gold and his diamonds that he wanted. Okay, so you have to, I'm going to erase this so I have some more space. So you have to take 3 times 4x, which would be 12x. You keep the subtraction sign and do 3 times 8, which is 24. These are not like terms, so you cannot put them together. So you leave it just like that. Okay? All right, next one. Same thing. Negative 2 times t is negative 2t. You keep the subtraction sign. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. And this is where it has the subtract and negative, so smiley face trick. And because that is a plus plus, we just take it out and put in a plus sign. Okay, questions on any of that before I do the challenge one? Ezra? No? Good? Brandon? Oh, we're trying the challenge. Yep, that's where I'm going. Okay, so first thing you have to do is distributive property. I know there's distribute in here because the 7 is touching this. So I'm going to do 7 times 1, which is 7. Keep the sign. 7 times 3m would be 21m. But I still have this 4 plus. Okay? So basically it's just combining this here and this here. All right? Now, is there anything I can combine? Up here. The 7 and the 4. Very good. So I have negative 4 and positive 7, which would be a 3. So I can write 3 minus 21m. Okay, if you wanted to say 3 plus 21m, that's the same thing. Or if you wanted to write the negative 21m first for some reason, those are all the same answers. You can do any of those. It has to be one of those answers. One of those two, I guess, is what I wrote in there. Or and I've written another one a second ago. Why can't the 3 be negative? Because it's a negative 4 and a positive 7. 3 minus 1, that was the first one I had. And then I changed it to plus and negative so you could have that choice too. All right, let's look at our learning goal for today. First part of today is vocabulary. I really wish Digits would have taken the vocabulary section and really kind of put it before I talked about yesterday, but they didn't. I think it would have helped us. It says the student will understand, okay, first vocabulary is terms, which I kind of already talked about. Then we're going to have a vocabulary word coefficient. And then we're going to have the vocabulary word constant. So 3 important vocabulary words. And we're going to expand on our knowledge of how to combine like terms. Nick. I am so glad that you asked. Okay, so here we go. Here's the first 2 vocabulary words. The first one is terms. Here's a picture of what terms are. This has 3 terms. Each time that these are separated by that pause or that adding and subtracting, you have a new term. Okay, so there are 3 separate terms here. Okay, the next word that Nick asked about was coefficient. Coefficient is a fancy way of saying the number before the letter. Okay, very fancy word. So the coefficient here is negative 5. The coefficient of this one is 1, because a 1 would be in front of the y. Okay, so then your next question might be, well, what is the 2? Like, what do we call that then? Because it doesn't have coefficient. It is a term. It's a what? No. Good try. Good guess. Okay, it's called the constant. Now, I want you to think about the word constant. What does the word constant mean in just life? Gunnar?
I mean, it's continue to say the same. Same. Yeah.
Yeah, it stays the same, right? Okay, so if I say that, let's see, like 3x plus 2, okay? Let's say that Amazon's gonna charge me $2 to ship. So no matter how much I pay here, the constant is 2. That's why it's called a constant, because it can't change. It's always add 2. No matter what you do, you add 2. That's why a constant comes from, okay? All right. Now, this is a term, okay? This is the coefficient. This can always change because that's what variables mean. And when I say something varies, what does that mean? Changes. It's variable. That's where that comes from. The root word of variable is vary. It's changing. That's what a variable is. Okay? All right, so let's go through and try to practice this together and make sure that you understand all the vocabulary. Okay, so next slide. All right, so we're going to be working down the columns here. Okay, so here's my expression, 12a minus 3. How many terms are there? 2, right? Here's a term, here's a term. There are 2 terms. Okay, tell me what the coefficients would be, Gavin. Okay, now be careful, just coefficients. Just the coefficient. 12. Okay, remember, coefficient is a fancy way of saying what is the number before the letter. That's all coefficient is. It's really fancy. Okay, all right, so here's 12. Okay, what is the constant, Sophia? 3. 3 is the constant. Whatever doesn't have a variable means it has to stay constant. This means no matter what, I subtract 3 every time. Subtract 3. All right, let's try the next column. How many terms are in that next expression, Bobby? 3. There's 1, 2, 3. 3 terms. Okay? What are the coefficients here? Brianna? Okay, I agree. There's one more. Does anybody know what it is? It's a sneaky one. Brandon? What about the y? Has a 1 in front of it. There's a sneaky 1 right there. That is also a coefficient. It's the number before it. Okay? All right, what's the constant here? Bobby? No? What, Simon? There is none. There's no constant here because they all have variables. That's okay. That was a trick question. That was me. You knew that? Nick's got it. Yep. All right, next column. How many terms are in that one? Gunner?
3.
3 terms. Very good. There's 1, 2, 3. 3 terms. Okay, all right, the next part of this is coefficients. Nick? Oh, no. Wah, wah, wah. What is it? There's 9. Sophia? And 6. Very good. Coefficient, coefficient. What are the constants here? Emmy? 7. Remember, constant does not have a variable. Very good. All right, let's look at the last column. 3/4 S. How many terms?
2, 1.
No, it's 3.
1.
1 term. There's 1 thing there. 1 term. Okay. Any coefficients? Gunner? 3/4 is the coefficient. Are there any constants? No, there's none. None there. All right, I want you to click on the next slide, and I want you to try to do one completely on your own now and see if you understand. All right, how many terms do we have here? Oh, let's call in some other people. How about Andrew? Josiah? 4. Okay. What are the coefficients, Isaiah?
4 6.
Uh-huh.
7.
Uh-huh. Very good. And the constants, Trey?
4.
4. Very good. Okay. Any questions on that before I keep going? Sophia?
It's the 4 terms.
The 4 is a term. Yes, it's a term. There's 4 terms. However, 4 is also called a constant. No, because a constant means there is no variable behind it. A constant means it can't change. If I say -4, add to -4 every time. I can't do anything else. This one right here, or say this one right here, I can change the P and I can change the C each time. So I can't change anything about that guy. Because it's still a term. Terms are each section of it. Term doesn't have anything to do with constant. Okay. All right. Okay, next part of this is the second part of the learning goal where we talked about we're going to expand on our knowledge of combining like terms. Okay, so let's look at this first one. Does the first one have any distributive property in it? No. They really don't even need those parentheses in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this without parentheses because I think it's helpful. So 2r plus 7 plus -5r. Okay, then we're going to think about our video yesterday. The only things we can combine here are the things that are exactly the same. So here's my suggestion. I think this is what we should do. Okay, I want you to either put a square or a rectangle or a circle or a heart or whatever you want around the things that are the same. Because those are the only things you can put together. Okay, so I can put the 2r and the -5r. So 2 plus -5 is
3.
Oh, wow. Okay, I have $2. I owe you 5. -3. -3r. Okay, and then plus 7. Because I can't put the 7 with the 3 because they aren't the same. Okay? All right, what do you think about the next one? Is there any distributive property in there?
No.
How can you tell?
There's nothing outside.
There's nothing outside the parentheses. Very good. Okay. Oh, there is?
So number 5.
That's the third one, Nigaroo. Right there. That's the third one. Nope, we're on number 2. Okay. All right, so I need some room for this one, so I'm going to come over here. So r plus 4 plus -3, r minus 11. What should I do with that minus 11 before I even start? Sophia? Good. Same change, change. So same change, change. Now, I'm going to circle the things that are alike. Okay, so I'm going to start with my